The pristine white walls of the Interstellar Cultural Exchange Station gleamed under artificial lighting as Dr. Jenna Harrison hurried through the corridors, her tablet clutched tightly against her chest. She was running late for her first meeting with the Luminari delegation, and being tardy wasn't exactly the best way to start humanity's first official cultural exchange program. Dr. Harrison to Conference Room 7, the station's AI chimed overhead. "Your guests have arrived." Jenna quickened her pace, her heart pounding. After years of studying xenobiology, she was finally going to meet the mysterious beings who had made contact with Earth just 6 months ago. The Luminari were known for their bioluminescent skin and incredible technological advances, but very little was known about their social structures or customs. As the conference room doors slid open, Jenna froze. Standing before her was the most striking alien she had ever seen. The Luminari researcher stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent purple skin that seemed to pulse with gentle waves of light. Their large, almond-shaped eyes were a deep silver, and delicate patterns of bioluminescence traced across their features. "Greetings, Dr. Harrison," the Luminari spoke, their voice melodious and gender-neutral. "I am Krith, lead researcher of human social dynamics." Jenna cleared her throat, trying to maintain her professional composure. "Welcome to the station, Krith. I look forward to our cultural exchange." Krith's skin flickered with what Jenna assumed was excitement. "I have many questions about human customs, particularly regarding pair bonding rituals. Your species' methods of selecting mates are fascinating." "Oh." Jenna felt her cheeks warm. Of all the topics to start with, they had to pick dating. "Yes," Krith continued, pulling out their own tablet-like device. "We have observed various human courtship behaviors through your entertainment media, but many aspects remain confusing. For instance, why do humans engage in the practice of dating when efficient genetic compatibility scanning exists?" Jenna couldn't help but laugh. "Well, humans tend to value emotional connection over pure biological compatibility. Dating helps us get to know each other and develop romantic feelings." Krith's head tilted in curiosity, their skin shifting to a lighter shade of purple. "Romantic feelings? Your species bases mate selection on temporary chemical reactions in the brain." "It's more complicated than that," Jenna explained, settling into a chair. "Love isn't just about chemistry. It's about connection, shared experiences, finding someone who makes you laugh, who challenges you." "Fascinating," Krith murmured, their fingers flying across their device. "And these dates, they typically involve sharing nutrient consumption while engaging in personal information exchange?" "You mean having dinner and talking?" "Yes, that's one type of date. We also go to movies, take walks, visit interesting places together." Krith's skin pulsed rapidly. "But how do you determine if the other person is interested without proper biochemical analysis?" Jenna smiled. "We look for signs, body language, how much they smile or laugh around us, if they make an effort to spend time with us." "Most inefficient," Krith declared, though their tone held more wonder than judgment. "Yet oddly appealing. Would you be willing to demonstrate these courtship rituals?" "For research purposes, of course." Jenna nearly choked on air. "Demonstrate? You mean, go on a date?" "Precisely." Krith's skin brightened considerably. "Pure observational data can only teach us so much. Practical application would greatly enhance our understanding." Jenna felt her face flush again. Was an alien really asking her out in the name of science? And why did she find their earnest curiosity so endearing? "I suppose that would be acceptable," she found herself saying. "For research purposes." Krith's entire form seemed to glow with delight. "Excellent. I have already prepared a list of traditional human courtship activities to attempt. Shall we begin with the customary coffee date?" As Jenna followed Krith to the station's cafe, she couldn't help but wonder what she'd gotten herself into. Yet somehow, she had a feeling this cultural exchange was going to be far more interesting than she'd anticipated. Tell me, Krith asked as they walked, why do humans often display signs of physiological distress during courtship? Your heart rate is elevated, and your face is flushed. Jenna groaned internally. This was going to be a long assignment. The station's cafe buzzed with activity as Jenna watched Krith examine their coffee cup with intense scientific curiosity. Their silvery eyes reflected the dark liquid as they performed what appeared to be a detailed chemical analysis with a handheld scanner. Krith, Jenna said gently, the point of a coffee date isn't to study the coffee. It's to talk and get to know each other. Ah, yes. Krith's skin rippled with understanding. Personal information exchange. I have prepared several standard human courtship questions. They cleared their throat. What is your ideal mate's genetic configuration? A nearby officer nearly spat out his drink. That's not exactly what we usually ask, Jenna explained, fighting back a laugh. We typically start with lighter topics. Hobbies, interests, favorite foods. I see. Krith's skin shifted to a contemplative blue. Very well. What activities do you engage in for personal fulfillment when not conducting xenobiological research? Jenna smiled. I enjoy hiking, exploring nature. And I paint sometimes, though I'm not very good. Paint? Krith's patterns pulsed with interest. You create pigment-based visual representations. This is similar to how my species communicates complex emotions through our bioluminescence. Really? Jenna leaned forward, her scientific curiosity piqued. How does that work? Krith's skin began to dance with subtle patterns of light, creating mesmerizing swirls of color. Each pattern conveys specific meaning. This, for example, expresses intellectual curiosity mixed with. They paused, their colors shifting to a deep violet. Attraction. Jenna felt her cheeks warm again. Oh. Fascinating. Krith exclaimed, pointing at her face. Your epidermal blood vessels are dilating again. Is this a positive response to my display? It's called blushing, Jenna muttered, and we usually try not to point it out. My apologies. Krith's skin dimmed slightly. Human courtship protocols are quite complex. For instance, why do humans often engage in the practice of playing hard to get? Wouldn't clear communication of interest be more efficient? Jenna sighed. Sometimes humans are afraid of being vulnerable. We worry about rejection, so we try to protect ourselves. But rejection is simply an indication of incompatibility, Krith stated. Why would this cause emotional distress? Because feelings aren't logical, Krith. Haven't you ever felt hurt when someone didn't return your interest? Krith's skin took on a thoughtful gray hue. The Luminari do not typically experience romantic rejection. Our matching process is based on. They stopped, noticing Jenna's raised eyebrow. Ah. I am being too scientific again. A little, Jenna smiled. Dating is about making an emotional connection, not just analyzing compatibility. Then perhaps, Krith said slowly, their skin brightening, you could teach me more about these emotional connections? I find myself increasingly interested in understanding human perspectives. Particularly yours. Before Jenna could respond, the station's alarm system blared to life. Red lights pulsed through the cafe as the AI's voice echoed overhead, warning. Unknown vessel approaching. All personnel to emergency stations. Krith's skin flashed with concern. That cannot be right. No ships are scheduled to arrive today. Jenna stood, her coffee forgotten. We should head to the command center. Something's wrong. As they hurried through the corridors, Krith's hand brushed against hers. Their skin glowed briefly at the contact, and Jenna felt a strange flutter in her chest. Even in the midst of a potential crisis, she couldn't help but notice how their colors seemed to pulse in sync with her racing heart. Jenna, Krith said as they reached the command center, using her first name for the first time. If there is danger, please know that my species is sworn to protect those we care about. Is that a scientific observation? Jenna asked, trying to lighten the moment. No, Krith replied, their skin shimmering with an intensity she hadn't seen before. It is an emotional one. The command center doors slid open, revealing chaos within. Warning lights flashed across screens showing an approaching vessel of unknown origin. As Jenna and Krith stepped inside, both realized their cultural exchange was about to become far more complicated than either had anticipated. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Jenna wondered if maybe, just maybe, she was starting to understand why humans had always looked to the stars and dreamed of finding someone special among them. The command center's screens bathed everyone in an eerie blue glow as the unknown vessel drew closer. Jenna stood beside Krith, watching as their skin shifted through shades of worried indigo. Vessel identified, announced the station's AI. Salvage ship Lucky Strike. Known for illegal artifact trafficking. Space pirates, Jenna muttered. Just what we needed in the middle of our cultural exchange. Krith's patterns swirled with what she now recognized as determination. Perhaps this is an opportunity to demonstrate how our species handle crisis situations together. Station Commander Walsh, a stern woman with steel-gray hair, turned to them. Dr. Harrison, Krith, we could use your expertise. Our scans show they're carrying artifacts of both human and Luminari origin. Stolen cultural treasures, Krith's skin flashed with indignation. This is most distressing. They're requesting permission to dock, Walsh continued. Claiming engine troubles. Jenna caught Krith's eye. You thinking what I'm thinking? If you are suggesting we use this situation to facilitate the recovery of stolen artifacts while simultaneously advancing our understanding of cooperative crisis management, then yes. Krith's skin rippled with what Jenna swore was mischief. Commander, Jenna stepped forward, Krith and I could pose as cultural exchange officials conducting standard inspections. The pirates won't expect a human and Luminari working together. Walsh considered this for a moment. It's risky, but it might be our best option. Can you two handle this? Krith's skin pulsed with confident patterns. Jenna and I have developed a most efficient partnership. They paused, adding softly, though I believe humans would call it something more significant. Jenna felt her face warm yet again. Even in a crisis, Krith managed to make her blush. As they prepared for the inspection, Krith observed her checking her toolkit. Is this what humans call a dangerous date? I have read that shared peril can accelerate bonding. This isn't exactly what they meant by exciting date activities, Jenna laughed, then grew serious. Krith, be careful in there. These pirates won't hesitate to hurt you. Their skin glowed with warm, gentle patterns. Your concern for my safety triggers pleasant emotional responses. Is this what humans call butterflies in the stomach? Not exactly, but close enough. Jenna smiled, then impulsively reached out to squeeze their hand. Krith's skin brightened dramatically at the contact. Fascinating, they whispered. Your touch creates the most interesting biochemical reactions in my system. The docking bay doors opened with a hiss, revealing the battered salvage ship. As they approached, Krith's voice dropped low. Jenna, there is something I should tell you. When Luminari form strong emotional bonds, we can. The ship's airlock cycled open, cutting them off. A rough-looking crew emerged, led by a scarred captain who smiled too widely. Welcome aboard the Lucky Strike, he said smoothly. Just a routine engine problem. Nothing to worry about. We are conducting a standard cultural exchange inspection, Krith announced, their skin now professionally neutral. Please direct us to your cargo hold. As they followed the captain through narrow corridors, Jenna noticed Krith's subtle color changes warning her of danger. They'd learned to read each other so well in such a short time. The cargo hold was massive, filled with suspicious-looking crates. Krith began scanning while Jenna pretended to check documentation. Through their shared glances and subtle gestures, they communicated their findings. "Everything seems to be in order," Jenna said loudly, while discreetly activating her emergency beacon. "We'll just need to check one more compartment." The captain's friendly demeanor vanished. "I don't think so." He pulled out a weapon, along with several crew members. "You two are a bit too curious for your own good." Krith's skin flared with protective patterns as they stepped in front of Jenna. "You underestimate the strength of human luminary cooperation. And you underestimate good old-fashioned greed," the captain sneered. "Now, hands where we can see them." Jenna met Krith's eyes, seeing her own determination reflected in their silver depths. Through their shared glances, a plan formed, one born of their unique understanding of each other's species. As the pirates moved closer, neither Jenna nor Krith showed fear. They had something the pirates couldn't understand, a bond forged through cultural exchange, strengthened by mutual curiosity, and now about to be tested in the heat of crisis. The cargo hold's dim lighting cast long shadows, but Krith's skin gave off a subtle glow, one that Jenna now realized wasn't just beautiful, but might be their secret weapon in the confrontation to come. In the dimly lit cargo hold, Jenna's mind raced. The pirates had weapons trained on them, but they didn't understand the full capabilities of a human luminary partnership. She glanced at Krith, whose skin was pulsing with subtle patterns she now recognized as a countdown. "You know," Jenna said loudly, buying time, "there's an interesting human tradition about hostage situations." The captain snorted. "Oh yeah? What's that?" "We like to go out with a flash." She winked at Krith. Suddenly, Krith's entire body erupted in a brilliant burst of bioluminescence, temporarily blinding everyone in the cargo hold. The pirates staggered back, cursing and shielding their eyes. Jenna moved instantly, her self-defense training kicking in. She disarmed the nearest pirate while Krith's long arms swept two more off their feet. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, as if they'd trained together for years instead of just meeting days ago. "Impossible," the captain snarled, firing wildly in their direction. "No human and alien should work together this well." Krith's voice was calm but firm. "You fail to understand the power of mutual understanding and respect." Their skin rippled with patterns that made the shadows dance confusingly around them. "Humans have taught us that cooperation transcends species." Jenna ducked behind a crate, calling out, "And the Luminari taught us that appearances can be deceiving." As if on cue, Krith's body began to shift and blur, their natural camouflage abilities making them nearly invisible against the cargo hold's walls. The pirates' confusion turned to panic as they fired at shadows. "Station security forces are on their way," Jenna announced, her voice echoing through the hold. "Want to surrender now, or should we continue this cultural exchange of combat techniques?" The captain's response was another wild shot, but his crew was looking increasingly uncertain. Krith materialized behind him, their skin glowing with intimidating patterns. "Your human films often speak of good cop, bad cop," Krith said, their voice carrying an unusual edge. "Jenna has been remarkably patient. I, however, am experiencing what humans call protective instincts." Jenna felt her heart skip at Krith's words. Even in the middle of a standoff, they managed to make her emotional. "You're both insane," the captain growled, but his weapon was shaking. This was supposed to be a simple salvage operation. "Nothing is simple when you steal cultural artifacts," Jenna replied, emerging from cover. "Both our species value our heritage." Krith's skin pulsed with agreement. "And we value each other." The cargo hold doors burst open as station security finally arrived, led by Commander Walsh. The pirates, already demoralized by Jenna and Krith's resistance, surrendered quickly. As security began cataloging the stolen artifacts, Krith approached Jenna, their skin shifting through concerned patterns. "You are injured," they said, noticing a small cut on her arm. "Just a scratch," Jenna assured them. "Though I have to admit, that was probably the most exciting date I've ever been on." Krith's skin brightened. Then perhaps we should make our next cultural exchange more peaceful. I believe humans enjoy something called stargazing. Commander Walsh interrupted them, looking amused. Good work, you two. Though I have to ask, how did you coordinate so effectively without planning? Jenna and Krith exchanged glances. I guess you could say we've developed a special connection, Jenna replied. Indeed, Krith agreed, their skin glowing with warm patterns. Though I believe there is still much for us to learn about each other. As they helped secure the stolen artifacts, Jenna noticed Krith's colors shifting into patterns she hadn't seen before. They were beautiful, complex swirls that seemed to reach out toward her. What does that pattern mean? She asked softly. Krith's response was equally quiet. It is an ancient luminary expression. One that I believe humans would call, love. The word hung between them, full of possibility and promise. Their cultural exchange had become something far more meaningful than either had expected, and as they stood among the recovered treasures of both their peoples, Jenna realized that sometimes the greatest discoveries weren't artifacts at all, but the connections we make across the stars. 2 weeks after the pirate incident, the Interstellar Cultural Exchange Station was hosting its first joint human luminary celebration. The observation deck had been transformed into a stunning blend of both cultures, with earth flowers alongside bioluminescent luminary crystals. Jenna stood by the viewport, watching the stars and reflecting on how much had changed since Krith first arrived. She wore a dress embedded with tiny lights that pulsed in patterns Krith had taught her, simple luminary expressions of joy and affection. Your bioluminescent approximation is quite impressive, Krith's melodious voice came from behind her. They were wearing a formal luminary robe that shifted colors in response to their emotions. Currently, it glowed with warm, golden hues. Well, I had a good teacher, Jenna smiled, turning to face them. Though I'm still not sure I'm saying exactly what I mean to say. These patterns could be terribly inappropriate for all I know. Krith's skin rippled with amusement. Not at all. Though that small pattern near your shoulder is technically proposing a long-term genetic partnership. Jenna blushed furiously. Oh. I thought that meant friendship. The concepts are not entirely dissimilar in luminary culture. Krith moved closer, their own patterns shifting to match hers. Besides, I find your accidental propositions quite endearing. Commander Walsh approached them, holding what appeared to be official documents. Dr. Harrison, Krith, I have some news from both Earth Command and the Luminary High Council. Jenna held her breath. After the pirate incident, they had submitted a proposal for a permanent cultural exchange program, one that would allow humans and Luminary to work together more closely. They've approved your proposal, Walsh announced, smiling. In fact, they want to expand it. You two have proven that our species can not only coexist but thrive together. They're calling it the Harrison-Krith Initiative. Krith's entire body lit up with joy, their patterns so bright they nearly outshone the station's lights. This is wonderful news. Though I admit, I had ulterior motives for supporting this program. Oh. Jenna raised an eyebrow. Yes. You see, I have been studying human courtship rituals extensively, and I believe I am now prepared to implement one properly. To Jenna's surprise, Krith produced a small box, a very human-looking small box. Krith, Jenna breathed, her heart racing. Is that? In human culture, this gesture symbolizes a commitment to shared future experiences, Krith said, opening the box to reveal a ring that seemed to be made of both earth diamonds and luminary crystals. In luminary culture, we have a similar tradition, though it typically involves a complex light dance that takes several hours. Commander Walsh discreetly backed away, trying to hide her smile. I thought perhaps we could combine our traditions, Krith continued, their skin showing patterns of nervous anticipation. After all, isn't that what cultural exchange is about? Jenna felt tears in her eyes. You want to marry me? I believe that is the human term, yes. Krith's patterns swirled anxiously. Though if I have misinterpreted the proper courtship timeline, I can. Jenna cut them off with a kiss, their first, actually. Krith's skin erupted in a dazzling display of colors that had half the observation deck gasping in awe. When they finally parted, Krith looked slightly dazed. I now understand why humans place such importance on physical displays of affection. That was, most enlightening. Is that your scientific opinion? Jenna teased. No, Krith replied, their skin glowing with pure love. That is my emotional one. Though I would not object to gathering more data through repeated trials. As laughter and applause filled the observation deck, Jenna looked at the ring now on her finger, its earth and luminary elements sparkling together just like their own unique partnership. You know, she said, leaning against Krith, when I signed up for this cultural exchange program, I thought I'd be writing research papers on alien customs. I never expected to fall in love with one. Krith finished, their skin pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Perhaps that is the greatest discovery of all, that love transcends species, cultures, and even the vast expanse of space itself. As they stood together, watching the stars and their combined reflection in the viewport, Jenna realized that their story would become part of both human and luminary history, proof that the best cultural exchanges don't just bridge gaps between worlds, they bridge gaps between hearts. And somewhere in the station's database, a new entry was being written, the Harrison-Kerith Initiative, where science meets love, and two species become one family.